Unscripted, unfiltered, unapologetic. Diner stops and real talk. The voice of farmers, not politicians or promise makers. Just honest conversation about agriculture's biggest issues. At the table today. This is The Farmer's Table, an original series from Pivot Bio.
Hello, I'm Andrew McCrea, the host of American Countryside and a farmer in Northwest Missouri. We're headed back to the Cornhusker State today to meet up with 3 Nebraska producers who are a little newer to the game. We sat down at the Good Friends Cafe in Wahoo to talk about the challenges facing young farmers these days. Joining me at the table are Emanuel of North Bend, Lukas Fricke of Ulysses, and Melisa Konecky of Wahoo. Policy is on the menu today, and we kick things off by finding out what these young farmers think politicians need to know about farming these days.
I think the big thing, at least on my mind, is there's this huge push for electric vehicles. We already have most of the solution right here in our back pockets between ethanol and soy biodiesel. I mean, both great options that kind of just fell off the table, I don't know how many years ago, but we're not pushing it near as hard. Just to go from like an E10 to an E15 blend would be huge if you want to talk carbon in the air, let alone if you could get up to that E30 or keep going from there. And so as long as we can keep trying to push these renewable fuels, I think that's going to be huge, because we just don't have the infrastructure, I don't think, to be having all these electric cars on the road anyway.
No, it would never work on the farm. I think about that all the time. Like, I don't even know. If I got to haul cows to town, what am I going to do with them? I have to walk them there? Like,
the tractor would be able to make a round planting.
Right, we'd have to stop and refuel in Wahoo, and I only live 4 miles from town. So for me, I think it's more of the story, right? I think we see all the time people talking about farmers like they know them, but they've never been to one. They're cruel people and they don't care, and all they do is take from the land and they don't give, and they don't understand what we're trying to do. They don't understand the work that you're putting in. They don't understand what you're growing, what you do to make it grow. You know, all the effort, the stress, the anxiety that goes into doing what we do. We're not the ones getting rich, right? We've talked about that. So, I think for me, it's just really taking the time to understand where your food's coming from before we make statements, judgments on things that are going to affect, especially farmers.
I think that's the thing that I'm most nervous about in seeing some legislation come down the pipeline is, are we going to have access to what makes us productive, where we're able to make those $27,000 an acre payments? Like, we have to be able to really raise really productive ground and really productive crops. So if we start taking out, okay, we can't use, nitrogen, or we can't use Roundup. Situations like that gets me kind of nervous, and I guess I would want to talk to someone else. Like, they are safe, proven things. Use them all the time. We have to use them responsibly, but we have to have access to those technologies to meet ethanol demand, answer the question, be good stewards of the ground. Like, we're not going to be able to feed 8 billion people, and I don't need to be thanked for feeding 8 billion people. Just let me do my thing. Right. Trust me for what I'm doing, and at the same time, please pay me for what I'm doing. Right. I don't want, this sounds really bad, and everyone's like, oh, farmers get so subsidized. I think that is the thing. I don't want another subsidy. I just want market access. I just want a fair price for my product. I don't want to have to rely on everybody else. And I know it's like, and again, I'm guilty of taking them because kind of forced to take them at times. Like, there's no other option. You have to use those safety nets. You have to use those subsidies.
The government realizes that what we're doing is so important to our infrastructure, trade, everything that we're doing as stewards of the land, that they have to have those safety nets in place. And again, we don't want to use them, but we have to have them there to make sure that our livelihoods are sustainable so that we can keep doing what we're doing.
Yep.
Right.
So like with the new farm bill then, would you just as soon see those things leave? What would you like in a new farm bill if you're talking to that congressperson?
Okay, now that we're talking about free money, I mean, right?
You're dumb to turn down free stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it would be dumb to. Honestly, I guess I was excited, with the additions of money in conservation and making it for conventional farmers. That's where I think I'm excited to see, because again, it's just enhancing what conventional farmers are doing. We're using good products and they're able to help new cropping systems, that kind of stuff. That's where I'm excited to see it, like CSP, the conservation stewardship, or EQIP, getting better technology. Like, NRCS can help with soil moisture probes here in the middle of Nebraska, which we are the largest irrigated crop state in the union. So yeah, that makes me excited that, okay, yeah, we're gonna better conserve groundwater so everyone has that over the Ogallala. And then at the same time, we're, keeping it clean for people to drink. And like, that's where I think government and that kind of subsidization is good. But
it creates another outlet for guys.
Yeah.
Like if you're not if you're not
you
this big farmer, you can go conventional, you can go organic. You have options that will then help you with that. It just doesn't need to be straight, all right, this is all getting hauled to the ethanol plant, this is getting hauled to the soybean crush mill.
So I'm just gonna say what I think I would like to see as someone that's in the dairy industry and not as much in crops. We're seeing mass exodus of dairy farmers right now, specifically small and medium size. They're just, the industry is not supporting that. And we talk about people going hungry, but we're gonna see, I think the same thing as produce, right? You have to be large enough to sustain yourself. Seeing some of that money go into supporting these local guys that can get food where it needs to be, without all the transportation costs and all that middle stuff.
Really concentrating on more of that farm to table.
Right.
In your case, parlor to table.
Parlor to table, yeah. Seeing that those, I think that fixes a multitude of problems by supporting those industries and getting food where it needs to go.
we have to invest in the small communities. You would probably be great if we had dairy processing in Wahoo. If you could drive 4 miles,
Yeah.
there'd probably be dairy farms around here, or
Yeah.
more could sustain themselves. Where we're at, it's in David City. We're supposed to be getting a soybean meal crush plant. That's fantastic that we're again bringing it into the area. But when we're going to the big cities, we're not getting the same kind of opportunities. And I know it sounds bad, but there's infrastructure, there's cost, but that's where I'd like to see more maybe funds go to the rural communities to support the infrastructure, to get the processing there, because then the farmers are gonna stay there in the area. We're not gonna conglomerate, up. I think more marketplace opportunities.
Farmers have always taken care of what they value. They cultivated bountiful land and fed a nation hungry for progress. As Americans dialed up, precision on the farm led to yields once thought impossible. But when it came to nitrogen, it wasn't precise or predictable enough. Farmers deserve a nitrogen worthy of who they are and what their land can provide. And now there is one.
We're all farmers around this table and we're part of the community, but there are people in our community that aren't farmers.
Yep.
That's on my mind a lot. How do you address that in a farm bill or legislation so a town like this is thriving and not drying up?
So I'm from Wahoo, and the town is thriving, but we're seeing a lot influx of people from larger communities, which is one of the reasons that we're thriving. We have businesses people are coming to. They want that small town life, so Wahoo's starting to feel bigger and bigger all the time. Dual-sided sword, right? Good and bad at the same time. Frustrating as someone that's lived here. My family settled here in 1877. We've seen it all. We built the Catholic Church here. But it's also, I don't want to be a community that can't survive. So it's a fascinating time we live in. That's all I can say.
For us, so we have hog sheds, we have those kind of things. I would love our rural community to be able to support more of that, because then I could have labor there close. I could have the other contractors things, because things break all the time. That's just life of being a farmer. But now we got to go 3 towns over. We got to travel 60 miles. We're waiting overnight for parts. Where in the past, my dad could drive 15 minutes, the part would be in town, have it fixed, go on. But now it's those are the kind of situations, when that town dies, you don't have the support for those businesses too. That's the way that I look at it. So.
Well, and how many of them are related to ag too?
Oh, exactly.
Usually,
yeah.
if they're not supported by ag, they're not going to do.
Yeah,
really as
exactly.
We're caught right now between a rock and a hard place where you want to support local community, but it's real easy to get online, find that part, and it's going to be here tomorrow.
And here's the other thing, cheaper too.
Right.
It costs money to updo all of it, uphold all of it or whatever, but
Right.
It's a catch-22. You got to run a successful business. You want to support your other people, but what are you going to do?
Right.
And we got looking at our numbers. We've already established that. So if you can get your cheap parts cheaper.
I pulled open the manual. I pulled open the specs. It's part blah, blah, blah. So we talked about rural communities and everything. What is one big thing? It's connectivity. I know like, oh, what is internet? So much of our lives are surrounded around the internet and being able to communicate, run businesses. I mean, heck, tractors are gonna need 4G. I mean, look, if you were trying to do an online business, you would need good connectivity. Like I wanted to start a business, I had to find a physical office 20 miles away where I could get good internet access. That's silly when we're in the United States and doing this. We spend millions of dollars. And it's kind of funny, like when they're doing the maps of like, oh, this community has connectivity. No, it wasn't actually true. Like a gas station could have fiber connectivity or high-speed internet, and then they'd say the whole community has it. No, that's not how any of this works. Like,
in our generation, everything is tracked. Every pass we make through the field now is tracked. And to do some of these different things like your carbon credits, just keeping books in general, you got to be able to track all of that. Yep. So if you're in an area that has really bad reception, cell reception, sometimes that's not going to the cloud, that data's lost. If you're not storing it hard data within that machine, but you got to have that.
Well, I look even like the technology people want us to use. I brought up soil moisture probes. You can't get that everywhere, so we got to think outside the box. We have to have different companies bring in different solutions. Thank goodness there are that are doing it to be able to answer that question. You want us to do things more sustainably. You want us to follow all these rules, regulations, everything. Okay, that's fine. It's for the better of the environment. But you want us to buy all this equipment. Okay, we got to get it to connect to something. You can't. It's not going to do it to air.
Or you just use your old stuff. If you can't connect, it's like, well, we might as well just go backwards.
Yeah. Why even track it? Why even trace it? I'm not going to participate.
Within the Farm Bill, too, I'd like to see more education type resources for the greater public, these big urban areas, that we are doing things sustainably on the farm. We have a lot of the solutions that are in the climate right now that we can do. And from E15, anything 01 and newer can burn E15. But everybody's so scared of ethanol because you have the big equipment manufacturers saying, no, you can't put ethanol in, it's going to ruin this or that. It's going to clog up the filter. Well, that's false. And just to have that education line out there so that people aren't scared about what we're doing, because it seems like right now it's the loudest voice on the internet wins. And farmers are predominantly quiet people and think just put your head down and it's going to work out. But anymore, you gotta tell your story.
Those guys on the outliers, you're never going to change their mind. Nope. So sometimes you just know that's a battle you're never going to win. Unfortunately, sometimes they are the loudest one in the room. So it's just like, I don't know, what do you do? But I think we've got to just continue to do, promote ourselves, events, open houses, things like that. We're seeing more of that. I'm 100%, I will sign up for any of that. We're talking about doing a farm-to-table event here in Wahoo. Me and Lukas are talking about doing an event for like
Grazing and grazing,
yeah. So I don't know. I think we have to add another plate to what we're already doing, which is you have to tell people now what you're doing. You have to do it. You have to tell people about it, which is a lot of work, and the older generations hate it. But
to use a DC term, you got to start at that grassroots level.
Right.
People boots on the ground, and then just slowly work up, and then hopefully you can make an impact.
Yeah.
These three farmers may be young, but a lifetime on the farm has given each of them strong convictions about the business of farming, and just as important, life in rural America. We want to thank Melisa, Lukas, and Jordan for joining us. We'll see you next time on The Farmer's Table.